Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you for tuning in. Before I start with the video, I wanted to give you guys a big thank you because I finally made it to 100 subscribers. I know this is not like a huge accomplishment, but it's a start, and I feel grateful for those of you who watch my videos or comment or send me messages and everything. I really appreciate that, and hopefully I can continue to grow and give you videos that you enjoy. So thank you. So that's it for that, and now let's get started with the book that I'm going to be talking about, and that is The Cost of Knowing by Brittney Morris. So The Cost of Knowing is actually the author's, I believe it's her second book. I haven't read anything else from her before. And it's the story of a young man named Alex. And when we meet Alex, we know that he has experienced like a lot of loss in his life, including the death of his parents. And after the death of his parents, him and his little brother Isaiah, they went on to move with their auntie in a different neighborhood. So that's a big change in his life. But the biggest change in Alex's life following the death of his parents is the fact that he started to have visions. So every time Alex touches something, he can see into the future. So sometimes it could be the immediate future. Like let's say he will touch a spoon and he'll have a vision of him eating with that spoon like a minute later. Or it could be more elaborate, like you can see something that's going to happen to like an establishment, or he could see, let's say that you're going to be married in a year. Like he can see and like a bit further down the line into the future. And so that's very hard because, like, as you can imagine, since it happens every time he touches something, then he always has visions many times during the day. So he can do what he calls like canceling the vision. So let's say like the vision starts and he sees that it's something that's pretty random, like I'm gonna put my shirt on, then he can kind of stop the vision from seeing it like more elaborately. But still, like, his mind is just never at rest and at peace. So on top of that, because it happens every time he touches something, that you can see how he always tries to avoid touching things if he can. And so he's always kind of overthinking. So he's a very anxious kid. And with all of that's going on in his life, he tries to be the best brother, the best boyfriend, the best nephew, but he feels like he's always falling short in all these areas of his life, right? So he's very hard on himself. And then one day he will touch, I think it was a picture, he will touch a picture and he will have a vision of his brother's death. So basically he'll have a vision that his brother is like either in a coffin or like in the tombstone, but he knows that his brother is going to die. And with the details of the vision, he knows that it's not like that further down the line, but it is going to happen fairly soon, right? So following that, Alex has to kind of figure out what is he going to do about it. So for one, at first, the relationship between him and his brother is not that close. So it's not even that they are fighting or hate each other, but more so that following the death of their parents, they started to live in their own little world because they were dealing with grief differently. And so now that he has that information, what do you do? Because ever since he had these visions, every single vision he's had actually happened. So he can't prevent, he cannot prevent so far things from actually happening. So if he has a vision that, I don't know, like there's going to be like a car crash, that car crash is going to happen regardless, right? So Alex now has to deal with his past because, he has to deal with a lot of things that he never dealt with. And he's also in a race against the clock about what he's supposed to do about his brother. Do you try to prevent it? Do you try to protect your brother? Do you tell your brother that's going to happen, or do you not tell your brother? So whatever he decides, he has to decide fast and quick because, the clock is ticking. So that's pretty much like the premise of the book. Like roughly. I have to say that it's a book that really moves me. It's kind of a sad book, but there's a level of peace that I felt with that book as well, which I will get to eventually. So the book, it has obviously supernatural elements, but most of the book is fairly realistic besides the vision thing and how they got their vision. So that is like the part that's like magical / supernatural, but everything else is fairly like realist. Like there's no like a crazy universe that he gets to. There's no like portal that he gets to. It's really him living like a regular life, living a life that's normal. There's not that much magic in the book besides the vision and how they got to have those visions. So just to give you kind of an idea of what the book is like, the book is told from Alex's perspective, and so we are in Alex's mind. And I thought that it was very cool because, well, cool. I thought that it was very nicely done because in the book there's a lot of repetition. And I know that this could be like a hit or a miss with certain people, but the repetition doesn't stem from like bad writing. The writing in the book is actually really good, but I think the repetition is more in the fact that, because like I said, every time he touches something, then he's going to see a vision. So you'll see like that over and over again in the book. But what it does, in my opinion, it helps really show you what it's like to be in the mind of someone who is anxious and in the mind of someone who has to overthink every movement. So I thought that that was very nicely done by the author. Because living with anxiety, especially like crippling anxiety, like it's really, really tough, and someone who doesn't have it might have a hard time understanding it. And so in that book, when you read it, sometimes you even feel overwhelmed and out of breath because you're like, yo, Alex, like there's so much in your brain. So I think that was very nicely done by the author. And I feel like it was also a nice way to portray a young Black man in a different way, that's outside of the super tough guy that the media like to portray Black men, but not necessarily like a wimp either. Like he's not like a he's a young kid who has a mind of his own and everything, but he's not like that hyperly tough guy that we're used to seeing, like in movies and music and that kind of stuff. So I thought that it was nice to give a different layer to a young Black man who deals with anxiety, because Black men do have anxiety too. They do have like their own struggles that pertains to their mind, but it's not often shown in different media. So I think that the author did a really, really great job with that. But that being said, because you are in Alex's mind, and you really feel, I when I read that book, I really felt like what Alex was feeling. Like the book, the author really made me understand his emotions. And because of that, I have to say that this could be a little difficult for someone to read if they themselves deal with anxiety, right? So I feel like it could do like either things. So if you are someone who has a lot of anxiety, this book can make you feel like, oh man, there's a character who experiences what I experience, and so I'm not alone. So there's a therapeutic thing that it could be for you. Or it could also be like, man, I already have anxiety, and this book is making me anxious as well. So it could do like it could go like either way, which is why I think like I could give like a bit of like a trigger warning to anyone who wants to read this. If you're someone who has anxiety, just know that that's what's going on in the book. The same way that like if you are someone who has dealt with, let's say, suicidal thoughts in the past, reading a book about a character who has suicidal thoughts could either be something that makes you feel like, man, I'm not alone, finally someone can put into words what I'm feeling. Or it could be like, man, I'm dealing with this, and this is triggering those things in me. So I feel like a nice trigger warning would be to someone who has anxiety, that there's a lot of anxiety in that book. But that being said, what I loved the most about the book, honestly, is the relationship between Isaiah and Alex, the two brothers. I thought that it was so sweet. It was so beautiful. It was just, it just made you want to hug both of them together. And it makes you see like, the importance of family, and how sibling relationships, sometimes they can be tense, but it doesn't mean that the love is not there. So there's a lot of moments between Isaiah and Alex that just made my heart melt so much that even when I was done reading the book, I felt like they were kind of living with me for a little bit after I was done, because it was just so sweet. So the author did such a great job at just portraying a beautiful relationship, and even more so at portraying Isaiah's innocence. Like, Isaiah is my heart, you guys. Like, I love that little man so much, and he doesn't even exist. Like, he was just such a sweet kid. So it was beautiful to read that. So kudos to the author for that. I think that was like, mwah, that was nicely done. So the book has themes like, loss, relationships, family, grieving, prejudice, like a lot of things that I think are really interesting in the book. And also for me, what the book did for me on a personal level is that it kind of reminded me that there is beauty in uncertainty. I know that as a person, a lot of times I struggle with the fact that I don't know what's going to happen and that I can't control the ending. I feel like a lot of us struggle with that, so I don't think I have like any particular condition in that sense. But I feel like the book reminded me that there is something beautiful about uncertainty, and there is something beautiful about not knowing. So enjoy wherever you're at and live in the present as much as you can. Enjoy what you have, because you don't know when it's going to end, or how it's going to end, or how it's going to pan out. But just try to really live in the present. I think that this book was a great reminder of that. So for the most part, again, I really like the book. I do recommend it. It was a great book. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my video. If you have read it and have your own thoughts on it, because I think it's one of those books that not everybody's going to experience the same way. So if you read it and you want to share your thoughts about it with me, by all means, let me know. If you haven't read it and you want to give it a try, I think it's worth it. And, you know, read it and let me know what you thought about it. So that's pretty much it for my video. Thank you so, so much for watching. Again, thank you for getting me to 100 subscribers. And I will see you for my next video. Take care.